Here we go.
Hi everyone, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com and I'm here with Orna Ross for the Alliance of Independent Authors Q&A session. Hi Orna.
Hi Joe, how are you?
I'm good. Orna has like a cold or the flu or something, so I am going to be the hostess with the mostess, and Orna will grunt occasionally. Or giggle or something. But we have a few questions tonight and we're going to have a quick chat about audiobooks. But if you are watching live, you can ask questions and we will endeavour to answer them. So I think we'll just get straight into it. So we start this session, if you are new to our monthly chat, by doing a little bit of an update. So Orna, do you want to give your update first?
Yeah, busy.
Aren't we always?
As always. Seems to be a lot on at the moment. So from the ALLi perspective, we're all about IndieReCon. So for those who don't know, IndieReCon was started 2 years ago, actually the same time as the Alliance of Independent Authors itself. Started up two enterprising indies in the US. Started IndieReCon, which was a kind of an online free conference for authors. And this year we've got together with them. And our remit is to try and extend the reach and take it global and make it just keep on growing it. It has grown very well already, and to kind of help that along. So we're delighted to do that. And it's full on here at the moment, organising speakers, and we have, as well as 2 full days online, and by that I mean all through the night, because we're going to be showing all over the world. We have on the Fridays then, as part of the London Book Fair Indie Author Fringe Festival, we have a live conference at Foyle's Bookshop and an Indie Author Book Fair where readers will be invited to come along and see the books, and lots of panel discussions and one-to-ones, and of course you're taking part, and CJ Lyons is coming over, Stina Holmes is coming from Canada, loads of people coming from all over the place, and it's going to be really, really, really great. So that's where we are with ALLi. Lots of kind of work setting all of that up.
I have a question. Yes, and maybe a stupid question, but other people, I'm sure, were thinking it. What does the recon stand for? Because in my head, like, con is obviously conference. Recon to me is like a financial term for reconciliation of accounts, which I'm pretty sure it's not.
I have absolutely no idea. You would have to ask Shelley, and
we should probably clear that up.
I will find out for you and have an answer. That can be your cue in the Q&A next month, and I will have an answer for you then.
That is hilarious. I thought you knew that.
No idea. I just accepted it. That's what it was. No, very much that's what it was. That's what it was called, and there's a lot of very warm feeling towards IndieReCon.
Oh, yeah, it's great. And I've done it for 2 years, and I still don't know what it stands for.
Yeah, exactly. So that's ALLi. And then me writing away. We're going to talk about audiobooks, all into the audiobook world, really kind of enjoying that. And I've also kind of started thinking about certain projects that you kind of assume won't be financially viable or won't be, the passion projects, the stuff you do for the love of it. Started thinking a bit more strategically about how they can actually be made to pay. So, for example, I am launching a selected poetry, a sort of a small collection which brings together some of the poems I've written in the last 2 years, 2012, 2014. Now, that's not going to be top of the bestseller lists, but I have organised an event around that on my birthday night, actually, and it's going to be a really good event. The Irish community are going to kind of gather together to celebrate W.B. Yeats' birthday, 150th anniversary, and the audience there will receive a gift of the poetry book, and this is being funded by the Irish Department of the Diaspora. So a little bit of creative thinking is what I'm trying to, obviously nobody else is going to be able to replicate exactly that, but I am interested now in looking at how you can kind of fund at least the costs of your book or maybe more than that, and actually get that paid up front before the book comes out, and then see how it gets on its own.
Well, I think, I mean, it's a kind of a crowdfunding, kind of an event model, which is what the musicians are doing now, isn't it? Event-based model, and speakers have always done. So most professional speakers will include the price of a book in an event. And in that way sell copies to the audience. So I think that's great. And actually, I went to a performance poetry event in Bristol a couple of weeks ago, and was fantastic. And it was only £8, and there were 8 poets. So, and there were probably about 30 people there. And to be fair, they could have charged more and given everybody a book, not everybody's books, but like done, I would have been happy to pay, more and helped fund them. On the way out, you just think, these guys got paid like a £5 to perform all evening, which is terrible. And performance poetry, presumably you'll be performing yourself that evening.
I'm actually going to do a compare and facilitate a lot of other people reading. I probably will read one poem, but it's we have musicians and we've all sorts of people. Actually, Dominic West is going to read. That's the most exciting person we have. Yay! Wait,
okay, I'm coming.
Oh, now she's coming.
I'm always going to come. Anyway, we should move on. And I guess one of the reasons obviously we talk about ALLi because this is an ALLi event, but we talk about what we're creating in order to show everybody that our primary role is creators, and that we're keeping each other honest by having these chats and kind of saying, well, what have you done in the last month? And if you haven't done anything, it's kind of embarrassing. So did you have anything else before I do my thing?
No, you talk about yours.
My thing. So One Day in New York is on pre-order, which I'm really happy about. My next novella in the Arcane series, and it's my first one with a male protagonist, written with a male voice, so I'm excited about that. And that's good. I've started Deviant, which is the next in my London Psychic series, and I've started the research on that. Crossbones Graveyard on South Bank. I'm sure you know about that. Lots of lots of good stuff. Anyway, very interesting. And I was in the Shetland Islands last weekend, speaking on how to run a business as an author, or how to make a living from your writing. So that was fun. That is halfway between Scotland and Norway, so it was a bit of a hell of a weekend. And I'm still finishing the narration of Business for Authors myself.
How's that going?
Yeah, well, we could talk a bit about audiobooks now. We might as well do that. So I'm finding, as I told you separately, I'm finding doing my own narration incredibly tiring. I understand when I speak, when I'm a professional speaker, that I'm performing. So I expect to be exhausted when I speak because I give a lot of energy, and I'm an introvert like most authors, and I need to be alone for energy, so when I'm with people I give it out. But when I'm on my own in a box with a tech guy sitting there, I didn't expect it to be so draining and exhausting. So I was there 2 hours today, and basically I can't go if I'm tired, or like when your voice is like you couldn't go when you're sick.
I can't go now. I'm supposed to have a session on Thursday morning. I'm going to have to cancel tomorrow. And if I cancel late, actually, I have to fork up the session. Yeah.
But because your voice, one of the rules of ACX is your voice has to be the same modulation for the whole book. So you can't do one session where you're a bit hoarse and another session where you're fine. So you kind of have to go in with a sense of I am ready, to do this. And then I do about 40 minutes in the room before I can't, like, it just goes horribly wrong and I keep making mistakes. And then, and I'm just exhausted. And then I come out, I have a break. I found that I have to have something to eat because when my tummy starts rumbling, we do 11 till 1, which is a terrible recording time for my tummy. And when your tummy starts rumbling, you can hear it. So I have to eat halfway through, and of course you can't eat dairy because your voice gets all phlegmy. And there's just this whole list of stuff. And then the second half, I managed to get about another 40 minutes, and then I'm done. It's meant to be 2 hours, and I can never do 2 hours. And basically, I'm just finding it exhausting. So yeah, how about you?
I do find it tiring. I do 4 hour sessions at a
Oh my
time with a break
goodness.
in the middle. But we mix it up. Some of it's recording and then some of it's editing, what we did the last time.
Mm.
And I suppose the thing that's happening to me more than anything else is that I love the process. I just love the attention that it makes me pay to the words, and so much so that I have now changed how I produce books completely. I'm going to do sort of manuscript to audio and then audio to ebook, ebook to print book, whereas before it was the other way, kind of ebook, print book, audio. Because I really like in fact, I don't know if I will actually even upload. I will upload the Go Creative books. I have started recording the 8th novel, and I'm not sure that I will actually use it, but I'm still happy to do it because I see it as a really kind of intensive editing.
It's hardcore editing.
Sorry?
It is hardcore editing, although what I'm doing is when I'm in the box and there's a sentence that is wrong or that needs changing, I just highlight it, and what I'll do is update the ebook, not the print book, but I'll update the ebook before I publish the audiobook. So you can do it that way. But I know what you mean. I mean, you're reading it out loud, and you're like, what? Why is this so hard to read? And then you realise it's because your sentence is bad.
Yeah, exactly, and so as you say, it's a step in the process, and I did not expect that. So I think overall I'm really enjoying it, and I have no idea sort of what's coming in the next phase. But for now, I'm happy just to be doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was trying to think of some of the other things. I mean, like I've found that I make sure of what I eat. I mentioned the dairy. I know you don't do dairy anyway, do you?
No, I gave up dairy years ago.
Yeah, so I normally have milk in my coffee beforehand, but I made the mistake of taking peanut butter sandwich one day, and I was just like, nom. It's so funny the things you learn.
These are the things you would never think of. I mean, it's an experience. It
is. Oh, and there were the other thing, because I wrote down a whole load of stuff. I'm just trying to find it now. The breathing. How are you finding the breathing? Because what I'm doing is I'm almost having to stop and take a deep breath. I know that I haven't got the breathing right, and this may be part of why I'm so tired. How are you doing the breathing?
I haven't thought about breathing. Don't make me think about breathing.
Oh no! Now I've mentioned it.
I just do it. I mean,
maybe again, you have the benefit of being Irish.
I have no idea what that means in this.
Well, it means your the Irish culture is to do a lot more in public and to speak and talk and drink beer.
National stereotypes are we? Hello. I think if there's any truth in what you're saying at all, it's slightly more oral culture still. Probably.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
it meant to be a compliment.
Perhaps. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I'm actually enjoying the process of reading it. At first, it was excruciating. That's something we should say. For the first day or two, I just hated it. Literally, the sound of my own voice and the sound of the words. I was just so embarrassed. But the guy that I'm working with, Joe, he's just a really, really nice guy, and he was able to. I got over myself, let me put it that way, completely. Now I don't hear any of that at all, and I'm actually enjoying the process. But like you, I'm wiped. It is the most tiring thing I've done ever, possibly, for years.
And you said that you thought there was something wrong with you before I said the same thing, right?
I was so relieved when you said that, because I thought, gosh, why is this so tiring? Why am I so tired? I really, really was exhausted. So I was so relieved when you young thing, you sprightly thing, said that you were tired. So that was fine then.
Yeah. Well, I think the key there is that you have, I have to schedule. Like today, I mean, we have this tonight, but we didn't have this when I first scheduled it. We've changed the time. But I'm scheduling the whole day out, so I don't put anything after the recording. So a couple of weeks ago, I had 2 podcast recordings after the session, and I just had to cancel them because I couldn't do it. My energy was so low, and you have to give a kind of a punch into the words. Like, especially my business for authors, it's pretty short sentences, pretty packed. It's not telling a story. It's like bang, bang, bang. So it's very interesting. But yeah, so in terms of tips for people, scheduling time is very important. But also, I think that's the benefit of doing it in a studio and not necessarily at home. I mean, like I have I've got my gear here. I can,
Yeah, we should tell people we're doing it in two different ways. Yeah.
Yes. Well, no. I'm not doing it on my own mic anymore. No,
Okay.
I booked a studio, and it's great because you know that you go to the studio and you will get probably an hour for me, 2 hours. I'll get at least an hour of finished audio, maybe a bit more. And then I do my own editing, so that's different to how you're doing it. But it's like, you go to, today I did an hour of finished audio, which is great. You feel like you really accomplished something, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, it's another product, it's another string to your bow, it's another way to get your words out there.
Mm.
And then you can do lots of bits on your website with different parts of it and stuff. I have some in the money book that I'm doing now, I'm leaving out certain chapters because it would just be too long. It's a sort of an abridged version for the audio, but I am still doing parts of those chapters and I'll use them on my website as kind of leaders in and stuff like this someday when I get organized.
Yeah, and I have another tip. You need to turn off, so when you read, you don't read with a print book. You need to read off something digital because you can't have the page turns, right?
Yeah.
But to read off something digital, you have to turn off the Wi-Fi. So if you're reading on a Kindle, make sure you turn your Wi-Fi off, because we spent about 10 minutes the first time. Where is that noise coming from? Like our phones were turned off, everything was turned off, but the Wi-Fi on the Kindle was on, and it was causing a little, technical noise. That my tech guy Andy was like, "We've got to find that noise." There's a little tip. Yeah, so I mean, pretty much I had said back in January, like I put it on my year's list of goals, that I was going to narrate not only my own books but other people's books. And now I'm just thinking I can't possibly do that because it just kills me. And I'm not even going to do all my books. The main reason being is the updates. So how to market a book. There's no way I will have to update that next year. Sure. In 2016, so there's no point in me reading it. But Business for Authors is pretty static, and then I will probably only then do my next one, which will be more about psychology. But I think it's only worth doing if the book is static enough to last, because it's a pretty hardcore process, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. Anything that's going to need, I wouldn't be doing the ALLi books, for example, which all need updating so regularly. No, it's got to be something that's going to. It's a lot of work and a lot of hours between the actual reading and the editing, and then just getting it right and the arranging, and it's a lot of work. So it needs to stand. I think it needs to be work that stands there. Yeah.
And then so there's I recommend Simon Whistler's book Audiobooks for Indies, which has a whole load of information about the technical requirements for ACX. But basically, I'm doing the editing, and I use Amadeus Pro software, which is paid, but you can use Audacity, which is free. I know your tech guy does it, but if people want to edit themselves, it's a lot cheaper if you do that yourself. And if you do a podcast, for example, it's not that big a deal. And then after I've done that, I send it. I'm using my VA to do the QA, because you have to QA the files as well to see that you've actually edited them properly. So because quite often if you make a mistake, you have to go back and reread the same section. So she listens to it, because I can't bear the thought of listening to it again.
From start to finish all over again.
Yeah, I just can't do it. So I'm basically paying the tech guy, and I'm paying, for the studio, and then I'm doing the editing, paying the VA to do the listen, and then my tech guy is mastering the final files for upload. So yeah, I mean, it's not a cheap thing in terms of time or money. But yes, but I think it's worthwhile if it is a non-fiction book, particularly, that needs to be in the author's voice to be authentic.
Yeah, and I think a lot more, a lot of readers are saying they really like hearing the book in the author's voice. So the other thing is that the space is not as crowded as it is now in the ebook space. So it's yeah, it's possibly a good thing to do with at least one book, just to go out there and
give it a
put
go.
it out there. Yeah, they're not that easy to market, I think, audiobooks.
No, not yet. But I think things are going to come along. I think, you know, we're probably like 2009 in terms of ebooks. You know, that's probably where we are with audiobooks. One thing though, like I was excited about doing it, but it's really exhausting to me. But I met two, performance voices in Scotland this weekend, and I pointed this out to them and said, look, have you thought about being a narrator? And they were so super excited, because they both do a lot of audio work anyway, and they'd never heard of this. So I think if you're someone who does performance more regularly and can manage your energy better than I can, and, you know, to some extent how you have as well, then it may be a really viable part of an author business, the same way as Simon Whistler makes a good, you know, proportion of money being an audio narrator. Yeah.
When I was in the ACX offices in New Jersey, they had a whole row of cubicles with actors, essentially, who for the first time had a 9-to-5 job when they were between acting jobs. And they were absolutely thrilled to have this work. And there were just loads of them going in and out with their Mac and their gear, all that gear you have there. And yeah, it was really it was great to see. It was great to see them doing that.
Yeah, no, exactly. So is there anything else we want to talk about on audiobooks? I'm just having a look.
If anybody wants to send through, if you have any specific questions, please do send them, and we will tackle them here.
Yeah, so I'm going to write a blog post on the whole thing once I've done it. You know, once we've finished, I'm going to write a blog post on it, because I've certainly, you know, I've been podcasting for over 4 years, and I didn't, you know, there was still so much that's different when you do an audiobook. You know, who would have thought? So I must admit that I was all gung-ho about adding this to my income streams, and actually it's a lot more work. So I have renewed respect for all audiobook narrators. So respect your narrators, people. Be nice to them.
Absolutely. It's the difference between writing an article and writing a book, really. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Okay, so I've talked about that. So we have got a couple of questions. I will now, sorry if I get this name wrong. Faiz asks, I have a book that has been designed and printed, and I have my own ISBN. I've been looking for someone to distribute my book, but most companies seem to want to sell you the rest of the self-publishing package, but I don't need those. Who can specifically offer distribution and deal with administration for orders and sales, e.g. books ordered via Amazon? I presume the answer here is CreateSpace or Ingram Spark.
Sounds like Faiz is talking about print books, but it also sounds like maybe he comes from a trade publishing background, because what he's talking about there in terms of Amazon orders and so on doesn't really apply to self-publishing authors. You're absolutely right not to go for a package if you don't feel you need that support. So essentially what you need to do is, sign up with CreateSpace and Amazon, and CreateSpace.com. All the instructions are there, and just go through that process. We also have a very good couple of articles on the self-publishing advice blog, which will tell you everything you need to know about doing that. And then for your expanded distribution into bookstores, what you do is, when you're in CreateSpace, don't take the expanded distribution option, and you use Ingram Spark for that. And if you Google the CreateSpace, and Google CreateSpace and Ingram Spark by Jim Giammatteo, our watchdog, he gives a full analysis of the two ways. The best thing to do, it's not either or, it's both. And when you've done both of those, you've fully covered the distribution options. The challenge then is getting the bookstores or the buyers online to actually purchase your book, but you have your distribution options covered with that.
Yeah, exactly. And then Lesia asks, what are the pros and cons of using CreateSpace versus publishing through an outfit like Matador? Apart from the fees for them doing the technical work, like uploading, do you consistently lose money over time in royalties? Do you retain the same rights?
You do retain the same rights, so it's a self-publishing, it's a self-published service. The fees, Matador is unusual. It's a very good self-servicing provider, and it does things in a different way to most everybody else. So it does lots of different add-ons and different bits that you can kind of cherry pick. Most self-publishing services, it's all about the package, or else you go indie. With Matador, you can do lots of different things, and they're starting a sales force through Star, which will go in and represent some of their books, and they're doing lots of interesting things. In terms of will you pay for the service, will you have less money than if you did it yourself? Yes, of course. They provide a service, so it's going to cost you money, and so you will be less well off. If you have the time and the energy to do it yourself, you're probably better to do it yourself. It's always best to keep as many rights as you can, to keep things in your own control. But if you need a bit of help and a bit of support, Matador is certainly a very good option.
Yeah, and they have on their website a whole, example publication cost, so you can have a look at that. But I think maybe the way it's kind of phrased, which is, do you consistently lose money over time in royalties? I think you have to think of it more, about value. What is the value exchange? So I'm someone who chooses very much to do lots myself, and the value exchange for me is paying an editor and cover design, and that's pretty much it. In terms of that side. But then I also have print layout, and I have other things, and for me, I pay for those services because that is my happy value exchange. I'm happy to pay my editor the most money of the process because I feel she adds the most value to my work. So I think if you're choosing a partner that Orna recommends, then you then have to consider how much is the cost worth, and in terms of value to your business, especially if you've got a day job and you don't want to spend your time. It's like, how much is your time worth? So although I don't use that service or any other partnership service, I think a lot of people want that, and this is something I've had to learn over the years, is that some people do not want to do what I do, what Orna does. Some people would prefer someone to do it for them.
Yeah, and that's absolutely valid. And all we can do is say, this is a service that we have concerns about, or this is a service that we believe is doing a great job. But you still have to read the contract, please. Check out the terms. If you feel they're not fair, or there's anything sort of you've any questions, make sure that you ask all the questions you need to ask, that you're very clear about what you are actually paying for, that you're very clear about how much you will be paying for that. There is very often an option of paying a lump sum up front and keeping all the royalty income yourself, versus taking a chunk out of each sale as you go along. So you need to do a little bit of work. Do have a look at choosing a self-publishing service. It definitely will help you make those decisions. Free to ALLi members, so you just need to download it on the Self-Publishing Advice blog, and it will help you to make those kinds of decisions, and also to know what the right questions are to ask, which very often it's as much about knowing that as anything else.
Yeah. Okay, and then there was a question, well, it's more of a discussion in the forum, so I'm not going to use any names. So this was within the Alliance Facebook page. I just saw this, a discussion around accounting for writing businesses. Somebody was basically saying that they're struggling with managing the accounting for, for being a writer, and want to get better at it, and they're having a tough time finding adequate software for doing so. Now, I can talk to this. I was actually narrating today the chapters in Business for Authors around accounting. That's actually what I was actually reading out my P&L structure. It was that fascinating. Which is, yeah, it's terrible, I know, but I think you've got to be excited about money, you know, if you're going to be excited about accounting. So you have to reframe it as, if I'm not actually looking at my money in detail, it's going to disappear. So you have to watch these things. But I use Intuit QuickBooks, which many small businesses use, and I use the software as a service version, which is online. And the benefit of that is twofold, I think. One, you get all the upgrades, so instead of buying the software, installing it on your computer, and then, you know, having to buy the upgrades or manually upgrading over time, with the software as a service, it just automatically upgrades all the time, and I think it's brilliant. Secondly, you just log into your bank through the software, and it updates the accounts, and then you just code them. So, you know, you need to choose your P&L structure, as I mentioned, your profit and loss structure, which is how you want to split out. You don't just have in and out when you're a business. You know, you have audiobook sales, and you split that by vendor. Well, we only have one vendor, but for ebook sales, for example, I split that by all the different vendors. For print book sales, that type of thing, speaking, affiliate income. So that's on the P side, and on the L side, the expenses side, you have, you know, things like the studio cost. Both of us have a cost for our audio, for example. You know, computer is an asset that's depreciated. You know, there's all kinds of things that go into the P&L. But I find with QuickBooks, I just log into my bank and then I code the money. You know, whether it's in or out, you have to code an expense or income code against it, and then it automatically makes a report. And then the other brilliant thing, if it's software as a service, is at year end, all I do is tell my accountant it's ready, and he can actually log in to the software and look at it online. So I don't need to like scan stuff and send it and all that. All I do is just give him the password, and he logs in and has a look himself. So since going to QuickBooks, I just think it's brilliant. It's fantastic.
How long have you been using this?
Couple of years now.
Okay.
Yeah, like 3 years. Yeah, probably since I moved back to the UK. So yeah, coming up to, this is my 3rd tax year in the UK. And I just think that software as a service thing is brilliant. You know, so if people don't know what that means you don't have the software on your computer. It sits on the cloud, and you just log in on the cloud, like we do on KDP, for example, or whatever. Yeah.
Good.
I know you don't get so excited about this stuff. Do you have any comment on accounting software?
I would be an enormous fraud if I started to talk to anybody about any kind of accounting. I'm in a very, very lucky position of not really having to engage with that. I have somebody who does it for me. So
yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah. I'm actually number blind. I can't add anything arithmetic. I like advanced maths, calculus and stuff, but I can't add 2 and 2. So, yeah.
Okay, right. So do we have any live questions?
I'm afraid we do not, unless anybody would like to send something through. It's very quiet this month after we had
you forced
hundreds
me
of
to
questions last month.
To 8 p.m. so that people could ask me live questions.
Yeah, well, we thought maybe.
Well, then I don't know if you had a chance to look at this, but I posted an article last week that's already got over 100 comments, 107 comments right now. It's called "The Roller Coaster of Being a Writer."
This is the roller coaster piece.
Yeah.
Very interesting, very, very nicely written, if I may say so.
Yeah, thank you very much. For anyone who hasn't seen it, basically I was having a bit of one of those days, as we all do, and I don't normally share when I have one of those days, but in this case I could think of so many conflicting emotions and feelings and like ridiculous stuff going on in my head that I thought I would write it down, and so I wrote this post, which is based, you know, it's just all, it was going to be a picture of a seesaw. It was going to be the seesaw of writing, but I couldn't find a nice picture of a seesaw. So it became a roller coaster. But it, you know, it's basically, you know, I hate writing, I love writing, my mind is completely empty, I'll never have another idea, something will come out of this crazy world, you know, write to live, live to write, and I just go back and forwards and back and forwards. And what was so interesting is, obviously I tend to write mostly helpful posts about practical things, and then occasionally I write something emotional, which does much better. But this one, the comments, you know, so interesting in terms of people feeling the same way, and it made me and the other commenters feel much happier about the fact that we all have the same brain. Like every day you seesaw from feeling like total crap, like everything I do is terrible, I got a blank page, it will never be filled, to, oh, I'm amazing, why have I not got a movie deal, you know, why am I not like J.K. Rowling, famous and rich, and then, oh, I don't want anyone to know who I am, my writing is so awful. And anyway, what I wanted to just share was we're all the same. Like, there doesn't seem to be anyone who doesn't suffer this kind of ridiculous up and down. And since you are my creative mentor friend, Orna, perhaps you could give us some insight as to the creative mind and madness.
Well, my favourite on this is Leonard Cohen. He says, there's a crack in everything, and that's where the light gets in. So I actually think it's the vulnerability and the exposure and the sense of exposure that lets you know you are actually creating. So if you're not feeling some version of that, you're probably coasting and not actually, you know, now putting yourself out there all the time is definitely not to be recommended. So I do think we need practices that kind of keep us safe so that we can then put ourselves out there. But, you know, you see what happens when creatives just keep pushing that further and further. It's actually very self-destructive, and you know, you see it in the extremes of those who commit suicide because they just can't kind of take that pull in two directions anymore. So I think there's a few things that I would say. It's part of the job, negotiating that. The people who create anyway are the ones who feel it, but just go ahead and do what they need to do. You're not kind of put back in place by it. It happens, you feel it, you do it, and the only way beyond it is through it, to feel it and go beyond it. But at the same time, you recognize that doing this does take a toll on your psyche or your soul or whatever part of you want to, whatever word you want to put on it, and that you need to kind of nurture yourself, and you need to know what gives you a sense of coming back. So you do have to have the up down movement, not just stay up there banging away at it. So yeah, I don't know if that's any use to anybody, but it's interesting.
It is interesting, and I think it's good to realize that, as you say, the job is managing this. And I think what was interesting to me is so often you think it's just you, but obviously it's not. I mean, every book on writing you read talks about this kind of stuff. I've been reading Dani Shapiro's Still Writing. Actually, it wasn't available on Kindle. I had to buy a print version, which is just, I know, devastating to Dani Shapiro's publisher. What are you doing? I mean, that's just ridiculous. But yeah, really kind of good book in that way. So I've been enjoying that book a lot, actually. Then just while we've got a few minutes, the other book I've been reading, which is the one that changed my life 10 years ago, is the 10th anniversary of Jack Canfield, The Success Principles, which is one of those brilliant self-help books. But it opens with a chapter that is you need to take 100% responsibility for your life, and the results you have now are because of choices you've made in response to situations. And it's been really interesting to read the book. Well, I haven't finished it, it's really long. Reading it again 10 years after I read it the first time. So I did read that in 2005, 2006, when I was really unhappy in my life. When I read that, I was very challenged. I was like, it's my fault that I'm stuck in a job that I hate because I just haven't taken responsibility for the choices that I've made. And for someone like me who thinks they're very in charge of their own destiny, that was quite a shock. So that's something else I'd encourage people to have a look at. Jack Canfield, The Success Principles, how to get from where you are to where you want to be is the tagline, which I think is brilliant. And It is
Classic.
it is classic, and it's quite
Classic self-help stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it is, but very good self-help stuff. Like, not, again, it's cram-packed full of stuff. It's not one of these where you read it and you get like 2 highlights. This is, you highlight like every page, and I am even I get reading it again, so that's cool. Are you have you got anything that's inspiring you right now, or you just want to go to bed?
I'm actually feeling this flu, but I've also just heard from Henry Hyde that I didn't have the Q&A function switched on, and I think Jeff Shear may have a question for us, and so I just want to say that we are here to take questions before we leave. Sorry, my head's just not working. I think he said he left it on the ALLi page, so I will have a look and see if we can dig that out for us while we're talking. Yeah, in terms of inspirational stuff, I go through phases of reading that sort of stuff. I need it sometimes, and then I find the phase that I'm in at the moment is very much about being inspired by the writing itself. So I think
that's good. Well, you have a look for the question. I will share a tip. I'll share a tip from Debbie Young, which was on the Facebook page. Again, since people are going to be listening to a recording of this, I might as well share it. And I've talked with Ros Morris about this. When you're in the UK, buying, you, instead of ordering books from America, you just buy them from amazon.co.uk, and if you've got Amazon Prime, you get free shipping. And Debbie's gone a step further with her tip, which is when we publish a paperback with CreateSpace from the UK, you can't buy a UK copy. You have to order the proof from the US, and it's a pain in the ass, and it's quite expensive actually. So Debbie's suggesting that since no one's going to be looking for it anyway, you might as well just publish it and then order the proof from the UK, and then you'll get it via Prime, and then once you approve it, you can just change the price basically. So I actually think that's quite a good tip. It's essentially you might as well just publish it as if you've already approved it, and then you can make changes if there's anything wrong, because what's the chance of anyone being there ready to order it as soon as it's ready? So yeah, good tip there from Debbie.
Yeah, very interesting, because of course it takes forever for the book for the proof to come. That's really the problem, and it's very costly. In comparison to, a lot of us have Prime, and in comparison to getting it the next day, and it being very cheap. Yeah, well done, Debs. Clever.
Did you find the question?
Not finding Jeff's question, Jeff. You have 3 minutes to come through to us if you still want your question answered. You may have gone away thinking.
Get here, Henry. Well, you can ask me on Twitter @thecreativepen. And I will go and have a look. But otherwise, what have you got coming up between now and the end of March? I'll tell you one thing, I will be 40. That's what's happening to me in the next month. What are you up to?
I'm doing a lot of writing, a lot of...
I'll be writing too. Anything else?
No. Writing and organising IndieReCon. That's my whole life for the next month.
Yeah, okay.
I'm getting over this flu.
I suppose we.
But I'll be.
Yeah,
I will be at a certain 40th birthday party.
I am speaking in Charleston at Pub Smart. So that's I will be in America.
Sense, I think it's called.
Pub Sense, yes, Pub Sense Summit, indeed. So our next in fact, our next ALLi Q&A is going to be the day after Orna's shindig. So that's going to be fun.
The day after.
It's April the 2nd.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm in America. So here we go. Oh, Henry has asked, what's the reaction been to the activity on Vatmos? Of course, the last hangout was on Vatmos, so has there been any reaction?
Yeah, we got very, very positive feedback to the actual video that we did with Henry and Juliet, and I think we've had a lot of people who've gone over to join the campaign. Certainly that's my information. And yeah, we'll be looking forward to getting a catch up from Henry soon as to what's happening next, and we definitely will be keeping in touch. But yeah, very, very positive feedback. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, and I've seen that the whole petition thing has gone back, gone back on Twitter and going around again. So I must say, I think there's positive steps to that changing over time. So that's good. Anything else?
Nope, I think that's it for this time.
Yeah. Okay. All right then. So we'll be back end of March, beginning of April, 2nd of April. Yeah, is what I have in my diary. So
we may have to change that if you're away, but we'll see anyway. We'll let people know in plenty of time.
Yeah. All right then.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. Sorry for not turning on the Q&A.
Next time.
Brain will be functioning next time, I promise.
See you in. Oh, we should say, if you are not a member of the Alliance of Independent Authors, check us out at allianceindependentauthors.org.
She's always there with the marketing. Thank you, Jo.
Signing off.
Signing off. Good night, everyone.
Bye.